Përshëndetje të nderuar shikues, mirë se erdhët në edicionin e radhës së emisionit 10 minuta. Këtë herë pranë meje kam ish ambasadorin e Bashkimit Evropian, zotrin Ervan Fuere, me cilin do të flasim në lidhje me krizën politike në Maqedoni. Mirë se erdhët zotri Fuere.
Mirëdita, faleminderit.
Si u duket sot Maqedonia? Tani më ka 4 javë që vazhdojnë protestat, her pas here pasojnë edhe kundër protesta.
Well, I think the situation demonstrates that the society in Macedonia is totally divided, polarized, and the blame for that lies squarely with the ruling party, with the government that has promoted a policy of negating the basic human rights of the people. There are many clear allegations of abuse of power, of corruption, many other instances of failure to respect the basic standards, democratic standards in the country. These are documented in many of the reports, State Department report of America, European Union's regular reports, the special so-called PREBA report of last year, etc., etc. All of these unanimously assess the gross violation and abuse of power, and that there has to be a change. And I can quite understand the people who are going out in the streets protesting also at the latest decision by the president of the country to pardon all of those people. This gives a terrible message of lawlessness and the failure of upholding the rule of law in the country.
Klima politike është e tensionuar. Abolimi I presidentit Ivanov akoma më shumë e ka ndërlikuar atë, me sa duket perëndimi ka dështuar që Maqedoninë të vendosë në binar të drejtë. Me që presidenti tingëllon më shumë pro-rus se sa pro-evropian.
Well, I don't know what his ultimate motives are. He claims, the president claims that he took this decision in the interest of reconciliation. But this is not reconciliation. What he has done is basically tell the people who have perpetrated these acts of corruption and abuse of power and so on, he has said to them, well, you know, I will pardon you. So anybody who wants to repeat such cases, such actions, will do so. So it really begs the question, is the government really committed to its objective of joining the European Union, or is it going to promote and perpetuate a society where there is no rule of law and where the government remains in power purely on the basis of intimidation and of cheating?
Në qoftë se zgjedhjet bëhen me 5 qershor, a mendoni se kjo do të ndryshon status quo-n?
I wish they could. The objective of these elections, which was agreed already last year in the political agreement mediated by the European Union and the United States, was to enable the country to turn a new page in the democratic process, to ensure a return to democracy and to give confidence to the citizens that their vote means something. Unfortunately, we have seen that many of the reforms necessary for a free and fair election have not been adopted, have not been taken. The voters list is still not been vetted properly. The media reforms have barely started. We see the way that the former Prime Minister, Mr. Gruevski, is traveling around the country, opening projects and so on. Who is paying for that? Is it state funds? He shouldn't be doing that. He is no longer the head of the government. So these are all aspects which demonstrate that the conditions are clearly not there. In February, the US and EU ambassadors sent a letter to the Prime Minister to say that the elections should not take place in the current environment. They must now repeat that letter to show that 5th of June, the conditions are simply not there. And if the elections were allowed to take place, it would be, I think, detrimental to the future of Macedonia.
Opozita ka bërë të qartë se do të bojkotojë zgjedhjet e 5 qershorit. Tregomni çfarë impakti do të kishte kjo në demokratizimin e vendit në qoftë se opozita lihet jashtë procesit.
Well, I can fully understand the position of the opposition. I have always been against boycott because I believe that This is not a policy that will solve the problems. However, here in Macedonia, you have a situation where the opposition has tried everything, has gone through the legal processes, the institutional processes. There was a political agreement signed by all the political parties, starting with the ruling party. They have not respected that. So what do you do in those circumstances? So I fully understand the frustration, and I understand the reason why they have boycotted. It means, therefore, that those elections should not take place now. They should take place only when all the conditions are there, which will therefore enable all the parties to participate. It's clear that we are not there yet.
Ka që thonë se BE-ja dhe NATO ja kanë kthyer shpinën Maqedonisë, duke marrur parasysh që integrimi I Maqedonisë në BE dhe NATO tani më ka vite që është bllokuar.
Well, certainly last year the EU made a big effort in mediating this political agreement to bring all the parties together, etc., etc. Even though there were a lot of weaknesses in that agreement, in the sense that they already set the date for elections without even knowing whether all the conditions were met. That was a big mistake. Secondly, they did not pay enough attention to the citizens of Macedonia, and we have seen here that the citizens are simply fed up with the way their human rights are being trampled on. They want a voice. They should be part of the solution. And I do believe that the European Union needs to understand the depth of the crisis, which they do not seem to appreciate up to now. They have been very slow in appreciating that. So there needs to be a much more determined effort by the EU together with the United States, and ensuring that there is this space for civil society, so that the future, the long-term solution, will really bring benefits not just to the political elites, which unfortunately is the case now, but to all the citizens of Macedonia, who are the first victims, unfortunately, of this crisis. The name issue is a convenient excuse, of course, by the government to hide all of these abuses of democratic standards that it has perpetrated. There is no doubt, on the one hand, that for individual member countries of the European Union to use bilateral disputes to block the accession of candidate countries is taking hostage one of the most successful policies of the European Union, which is the enlargement policy. But at the same time, it's quite clear that in the case of Macedonia, this government did have an opportunity to try and find a solution on the name issue, but they have perpetuated it because they know that this is the best cover for entrenching their own authority within the country, and for hiding all of these abuses that they have perpetrated throughout the past years.
A është e mundur që udhëheqja politike të mirret vesh për një marrëveshje tjetër që do të ishte për zhino 2?
Well, there needs to be a determined effort to pick up whatever is left of the Persian agreement. I think what is very worrying at the moment is that there is a vacuum in any mediation. The EU and the US are not, there's nothing happening. Maybe there is behind the scenes, but it's not very effective. And the clock is ticking. The electoral campaign, if it takes place 5th of June, will start very soon. So there needs to be a very clear decision now. There should be this letter from the EU and US ambassadors to say that the elections for June are simply not possible. So this is very important now.
Po të ishet në vendin e komisionerit Han, çfarë do të bëni që ta përfundoni krizën?
Well, I would certainly come to Macedonia again, but not for one day and then go away and come back in 2 weeks. This needs a permanent process of mediation, of negotiation with all the different political parties, with civil society, with all those who have been involved in this tragic situation, and to really try and find some sort of compromise solutions. And also at the same time, this is vital, to ensure that there is a full commitment of all the political leaders to allow the special prosecutor to continue her role. She is there appointed precisely to uphold the rule of law, and they must allow her to do that. She is the only hope, I think, for a return to the rule of law and to justice in Macedonia.
Ju faleminderit që ishit pjesë e emisionit 10 minuta.
Faleminderit.
Ndërsa juve shikues të nderuar, ju faleminderit për vëmendjen.